I was going over things that I wish that somebody had either done a video about or told me um, when I was at certain crossroads in my life or difficult times, and I wish that there was somebody that had either been through it before or could help me. One of the things that came to mind today was my transition, um, leaving industry and returning to public accounting. I'll give you a brief background about myself. I started my accounting career at a Big Four company. I only stayed there for a year. Um, Actually, let me backtrack even further. In college, I had two internships. One was an audit internship at a Big Four, and then another one was at a nonprofit. So I remember that I really liked my internship at both places, and I actually liked my internship at the nonprofit even more so than the public accounting internship. The only thing is that I remember in business school they always they put such an emphasis on the Big Four. It was almost as though if you weren't an accountant at a Big Four company, then like your career was just a waste of time, and that you couldn't really develop as an accounting professional the way you could if you were at a Big Four. So I didn't know. Pretty much, I thought the only option was to go to a Big Four if I wanted a career path of any kind. So I ended up starting my career at a Big Four. And then after a year there, the nonprofit that I interned at, they reached out to me and they said that there was a senior accountant position open. They asked if I wanted to go. So that was the first really difficult career decision because I'm only a year in. I don't know at that time if the decision, if leaving would be foolish or staying would be foolish. I just remembered that when I interned at that nonprofit company that I really enjoyed what I was doing. I liked working for a cause. I liked the team I was with. I actually liked that it was a small group of people and that the people knew my name that I worked with. It wasn't a large company with 50 different offices and 50 in different states and all that. Like it was a place where I can grow and that people could come to know me. So essentially, I decided to leave and go into industry. A few things that I did do, which I didn't even know would be helpful in hindsight, but now I know it was a good decision. I joined my state CPA society and I got involved. That way, I still got CPE credits. I also got them for free, and it was a way to remain connected with other people in public accounting, even though I had moved into industry. So I went to the nonprofit, started off as a senior accountant, got promoted to assistant controller, worked closely with the CFO, got to do a lot of cool things. And I know I wouldn't be able to move up that quickly had I stayed in public accounting. But then after a few years, I started to wonder, should I go back to public accounting? The pros and cons of working for a small place is that, yeah, everyone gets to know you, but it's hard to move up. If there's only a CFO, the controller, assistant controller, you can't move up from assistant controller unless the CFO or controller dies, which obviously you don't want that to happen to them, or they leave. And a lot of times in industry, people don't leave because they like the job, they like the hours, they like the salary. There's no incentive to leave unless they get something higher paying or unless they really don't enjoy, their role. So I'm just like, okay, what do I do from here? I didn't know anybody that returned to public accounting from industry, especially after having been away for so long. When I would talk to people, because I tried to get a gauge of other professionals that had done something similar, what I heard was that, oh yeah, I went to industry and then after a year I know I went to come back, so I came back to public accounting, or oh, I left for 6 months and then I came back. I'm like, I've been gone for 6 years. Like, has anyone done this? So that was tough, and I wish there was somebody I could talk to, and there wasn't. There were no tips. There was nothing really. I would Google or try to look on what do they call those things, like the discussion boards or things like that, to see this, like the CPA discussion boards, to see if people had done similar things. And then I think I did find one, and the guy was like, "Oh, it was horrible, and I was underpaid," and so I'm rambling, but whatever. Yeah, there was nothing really telling me what to do. So I started to interview, and it's interesting because another thing in business school, they talk about, oh, if you have your CPA, if you have your master's, like the world is your oyster in accounting, you could do whatever you want. I had my master's and my CPA, and the main thing I kept hearing was, oh, well, you've been out of public accounting for a very long time. They didn't care that I had my CPA. They didn't care that I had my master's. They didn't care that even when I did work in public accounting, it was for a big four. It was almost as though none of those things had ever happened. So I found that to be very interesting. But I kept interviewing, kept, looking to see what was out there. And I did land an audit position at a mid-sized firm because I didn't want to do a big four again. It wasn't because there was anything wrong with it, but I feel like if I was going to go back, I would at least do things differently. I didn't want to just retrace my steps and do what I already did. I figured if I was to return, let me return on my own terms. Let me find a company that better aligns with me and things like that. So I did find that. Some of the steps I did before returning, if this is helpful for you, I went to accounting college. I took like some refresher accounting courses because the industry, my job was very specific. So they weren't necessarily broad accounting transactions. They were specific to what I was doing at the nonprofit in that function. And into the industry that the nonprofit was in, because as you know, just because you're a nonprofit, you could be a nonprofit, and it could be a music company, it could be a school, it could be a healthcare facility. So there's so many different industries within nonprofits. So my skills were specific to what I was doing. So I took a refresher course for general accounting for financial statements and closing processes, and just kind of brush up on things I hadn't done in a while, but I remembered in theory and things like that. So I did that. I brushed up my resume, obviously, and I researched keywords to see like the things that people at the public accounting firms were used to seeing on the resumes they received, and I tried to see how I could parlay my industry experience to show that it's transferable. At the end of the day, debits and credits are the same everywhere. I can be an accountant for a nonprofit and be an accountant successfully at a CPA firm. Like this, it's not like it's one thing is biology and the other thing is psychology. Like accounting is accounting. So I took refresher courses. I talked to people in the CPA society that I was a part of to see if they knew of any job openings. I, attended networking events. The biggest thing to me was brushing up on my skills. And when I got to the firm, because most CPA firms, they give the free CPE trainings, they'll have like the relationships with, say, Becker or some other type of institution that gives continuing education credit. So I spent like the first month or so just taking CPE stuff specific to auditing. Yeah, that was the other thing. Even before I got to the firm, after I took the refresher course at the accounting college, I also went on the AICPA website and also took CPE that was audit related, since I was going to be doing that again. So I did that. That really helped me a lot, just to remember the testing and sampling, all that type of stuff. By the time I came to the firm, I felt like, okay, I got this. And so it went really smooth, even though I had been going for 6 or 7 years. And even though I had only been in public accounting when I was at the Big Four, I had only been there for a year. I was able to just hit the ground running, and it was seamless. Like I never left. So my tips is the long drawn out way. My tips is number one, if you feel like you need to brush up on your skills, do that. Every county college, because you don't need to go to a 4-year and pay higher for their continuing education classes. You can go to a county college, take some accounting courses. Definitely go on the AICPA website or attend one of your local state societies. Why am I lost for words? The CPA societies credits, like the CPE credit courses that they have. To take any that's related to auditing or to your industry. So say if you're going back to a CPA firm and you're going to be in their construction group, take some construction CPE, or real estate or whatever you're going to do. Like that was key. That way I remembered everything when I returned. Um, and if you're not a part of your state society, join. That's good networking because they'll know of job openings that are not necessarily on Indeed or LinkedIn or things like that. And always keep your resume current. And while you're in your position, always think about how could I translate this on my resume to show that these skills are transferable that I'm doing. Whether it's managing stuff, whether you're working with budget, whether you're presenting and teaching people. Like in my job, I had to train people on accounting related matters, which you have to do in audit. Say if you are supervising your team, which I have to do now, you're supervising auditors underneath you, and you're showing them how to do things. So those skills are transferable. So always think about how can what I'm doing now, how can that translate to any job? Because it is. It took me a while. First, I thought, oh, this is very specific. How can I really go back? But if you think about it, most every skill you can use in another job. So those are my tips.